Hello friends, it's Simone. I'm here to share my currently inked review for the month of January 2024. I had 10 pens inked. 5 of those were inked in January with ink samples that I pulled for my project Ink Down. These ones here. Unfortunately, the Papier Plume Caramel that I picked was kind of slimy, so I chose an ink bottle from my stash. And then I had a selection of inks and pens that I wanted to move forward from December, which were from the Diamine Inkvent 2023. These are the 10 pens that I had in January. Here is a look at the writing samples that I shared with you in my video, my currently inked video. And I am going to go through each of those pens and tell you how I liked or didn't like them. I have decided that in 2024, I am not going to review the pens that I'm moving forward to the next month. I already know that I'm moving forward 3 pens, but I still will tell you which ones they are and what they were inked with. So let's begin in order of how I used them in my journal. I'm going to pull in the journal every time I'll talk about it. So the first one that I had inked was this Pilot Parallel with a 1.5 millimeter stub nib. This was inked with Diamine Astral. And as you can see, there is a lot of shimmer in the feed. However, it wrote every time I opened up this pen. No hard starts, no clogging. I really enjoyed the way this nib wrote. I just still don't necessarily care for the shimmer that is in this ink. And so the ink is a definite nay for me. The pen is not very attractive. And I am going to, since this pen was loaned to me by my friend Katie, I have since acquired all the pens that she loaned me. And what I'm going to do is basically harvest them and just take off the nib unit and put them on my new Opus 88 demonstrator in pink. So I'm just going to count them as nibs. Overall, I used this mainly for titles or so, like I did right here and here. That was a lot of fun, and that was probably the reason why I continued this over into the month of January. I did not use this for actual writing. This one is the Pilot Custom 823 with a medium nib. It is inked with Diamine Walnut, and I will continue using this in February. This next pen and ink combination is my Schoen Design full-size Ultim pen with a medium monarch nib. It was inked with Troublemaker Abalone, and this is another nay ink for me. It was drier than expected. I have this pen, this nib is extremely wet, and it just didn't feel good when I used it most of the time. I also I'm getting more used to this pen and I'm liking it more and more, but the section is quite narrow and the cap doesn't post firmly as well. And you can see there is some condensation in the cap, and that is totally visible in the writing sample as well when I did my my scoring just now. This is how it looks like when it's just regular in the pen. this is what it looked like today when I wrote this. You can see this color has changed a lot. I probably will have clips of these writing samples in the video, but I'm not sure that I will keep up the numbers. I might just write sentences down here because it just, I don't seem to be consistent with these numbers across the board. And some I rate really low, some I rate really high, even though if I compare them one by one, I wouldn't rate them in that order, if that makes sense. The next pen that I had inked is the Esterbrook Estie with the fine flex nib that I was gifted by my friend Shauna. And it was inked with Pilot Iroshizuku Tsutsuji, another pen and ink that I am moving on to February. This is Woohoo, the Sailor Pro Gear King of Pens with a broad nib. It was inked with Diamine Jacaranda. This was a carryover from the month of December. That's why I'm going to unink it. However, this is just such a joy to use. I love the flow. I love the ink is wet enough to flow well out of this pen. The nib is just fantastic, and I love how it feels in my hand. This is definitely one of my highest rated pens at all times. Then I have the Pelikan M800 Green Demonstrator with a fine nib. Oh, haha, I forgot to show you how this looked. I don't have anything bad to say about this. That's why there is so little writing here. The next that I had was the Pelikan M800 Green Demonstrator with a fine nib. It was inked with Diamine Raise a Glass. That was day 25 of the Diamine ink vent. It is a shimmer ink. It is a purple shimmer ink, and I really enjoyed this ink in this pen. I love the color. The saturated purple is just fantastic. It didn't distribute a lot of shimmer, which I really enjoyed. And every time I used this pen, it felt very, very comfortable. I wish it was like maybe half a centimeter longer, maybe. Then it would be absolutely perfect. Another thing that I'm noticing is I don't know when to stop. I'm really afraid of cracking something here, but it doesn't really register when it's closed, and it opens up very easily. So I always feel like, is it really closed and capped securely? That is something that I have an issue with. However, this is one of the newer pens in my collection, and I still need to get to know this pen more. This is what it looks like in my journal. I gave this a very high rating because it's just awesome. I want to use this more. I hope it will come back in March. This is another pen that I'm moving forward. This is the Esterbrook Estie in Sea Glass. I have put my Franklin Christoph Sig medium nib on here, and I have inked it with J. Urbain Emeraude de Chevroir, and it was fantastic, and I want to keep using it, so I'm moving it to February. The next pen is the, I'm dropping this every time, the Gravitas pocket pen in the Delrin model in white. It is probably the best pocket pen that I have encountered. The cap posts securely. The section is really wide. I have the broad San Francisco Pen Show 2023 nib on here, and it was inked with Diamine Moonbeam. I did not maintain this pen well enough. It clogged. This one did not yet, which is surprising because it's another shimmer ink. but this one clogged because I did not maintain it well. So I had some struggles, but that was caused by me. Oh my goodness. Here, see the microphone being plugged in really well? Yeah, me too. It should be now, hopefully. What does it look like? This is Emeraude de Chauvoir Moonbeam. I really love, it's turquoise and pink shimmer. You can't really see it on here, unfortunately. So I gave the ink a 9. Maybe I should give an 8 because I don't see any shimmer right now. Oh well, there is some right here. The flow was amazing. It writes really well and smooth. The nib is very wet. And the pen is awesome for a pocket pen. The only complaint that I have, besides it fits all of my needs for a pen. When it's posted, it's the right length. Sometimes the grip section feels a little slippery, and I don't enjoy that at all. When I am not in the right mindset for this pen, this feels like a slippery mess. And so that's something that I need to make sure I enjoy, or maybe I shouldn't put in any dry inks here. What I loved about Moonbeam as well was that it was not only a shimmer ink, but also a shading ink. This is the TWSBI Eco in white with a 1.1 stub nib. I inked this on December 3rd, 2023 with Diamine Early Dusk. Can't really tell you what I liked about the blue. Oh wow, my dog has something to say as well, but he has been really quiet, which is awesome. Not anymore, I guess. I wrote down here, not sure what makes this ink so fascinating to me, and that's why I gave it an 8. If I knew, maybe I could look out for more inks like this. The flow is really wet and consistent because TWSBIs seal so well. I never had any hard starts, even when it's been inked for so long. I did give this pen only a 4 because it's a TWSBI. I've given away all of my TWSBIs except for 2, TWSBI Ecos that is, except for 2, this one and the turquoise one. This one I kept just because of the stub nib, because I've really started to like this a lot. I remember when I first used it, I wasn't a fan. And the last pen that I used is this Benu Ambrosia in the brown orchid finish. It has a medium nib, and what I find very interesting is that this nib doesn't have a breather hole up here. Is that the breather hole? Is that? Now I'm starting to question myself. The ink that I had in here is the Coffee Date from Robert Oster. It's one of their Cozy Comforts series inks that they did exclusively with Endless Pens. I purchased the whole set, still regret to this day. I like this pen. Well, let's talk about the ink. The ink is not for me. I have finally come to the conclusion that I'm ready to pass it on. The flow is really lovely, and what was awesome about this pen and ink combination was that it shaded so nicely. The pen is great. However, today I noticed, maybe because it's colder here, that the cap doesn't, you wouldn't think that this cap posts securely, but it actually does. However, today for some reason it doesn't. And so maybe it's because it's colder and it's not as warm and doesn't stretch as easily. I'm just assuming here. So that is something that I need to keep an eye out for, because for me, this pen is not really usable if it's not posted. So that is a really quick walkthrough all of those inks. Let me show you the last ink here. which is right here. Yeah, it leans pinkish. It's just not my color. And so that's how this went. I am going to sort these pens into favorites, and I would probably go this way. So if I would sort these into my favorite to least favorite, then I would go this way, the Sailor Progress, because it's just so amazing. I have gotten to know it quite well since the San Francisco Pen Show when Nadia loaned this to me. This is on second place only because it's new and I have only one ink experience with it so far. These ones are very similar. I really like with the TWSBIs that they seal so well. The ink flows really nicely out of this pen and the ink is just lovely. With this one, because it was a shimmer, it was harder to maintain. That's why it's behind the TWSBI. But it's still really, really lovely. The Abalone, it's just not an ink for me. So that's why it's here. This one again is right back here because of the ink color. And this one is here because I basically only used it to write titles. And that's not really how I had hoped to use this. I would love to use these broader nibs from the Pilot Parallels more in my pen pal letters. I didn't write a lot, but I also was very hesitant because this ink is so dark. So the benefit of having a dark ink for titles that stand out was also a drawback for this ink in my letters because it just was so dominating in those letters then. Alrighty. I already told you that I'm going to move these 3 pens into February, and I'm really excited to get started with that. But what I wanted to do now is this. So in the back of my journal here, I have made pages for each ink category: yay, try again, nay, and discarded. One is here, which is the Papier Plume Caramel, which was slimy. Today I would like to add all of the inks that I have used and just reviewed with you. So Troublemaker Abalone is a total nay. So I'm going to put that right here. I need a writing board for sure. So Troublemaker. Then I would like to add Robert Oster, Coffee Date. And I'm also going to add Diamine Astral. I gave it a chance. I really liked it for that one single use, but I don't think this would warrant maybe keeping a sample. But I'm also really happy to let this go. These go. Then with all 3 of those. So the nay is, I would never buy a bottle of this. I'm giving away the sample. Try again is 2 categories. So if the sample comes from one of those Diamine Inkblend bottles, I'm going to keep it. If it is a sample, I'm going to give it away no matter what. So either if it's a yay, it will be given away. If it's a try again, it will be given away unless it's one of those. I hope that makes sense. But all 3 of those I would really love to see in a different nib. Even though I really liked them and they might fall under the yay category, I would love, before I would commit to a full bottle of these inks, I would love to see those in a different nib. The reason being is that This one is a shimmer ink and it was in a broad nib. This one is a chromo shading ink and it was in a broad nib as well. And this one was in a 1.1 stub nib. I want to see how they perform in fine or medium nibs before I commit. Now, I am not planning on committing to anything, but if I was, then yay would be I would buy a bottle sight unseen, no other testing needed, and try again would be I need to test this sample one more time before I'm committing to a bottle or before I'm saying no, this ink is not for me. So the reason why I'm making this list is very simple. I want to get rid of the ink samples that I have used this year, and by doing this I am still documenting whether I would buy a bottle or whether I would like to keep it, but I can give it away. And then maybe if I didn't have 210 ink samples, I would go back and do this. I found that by making this list, I can let go of the ink samples instead of having this in the air. Doesn't really need to make sense to you, just needs to make sense to me. Diamine. Early Dusk, Diamine, and Diamine Moonbeam. I've also decided that for now I am not going to add those ink samples, Inkvent ink bottles back into my ink down box because I have so many and I would like to at least use a different ink every time I ink it up. These will go into my ink drawer, and yeah, I'll see how this develops. I'm making the rules for my project Ink Down up as I go, but at the moment this seems to make most sense to me. So I'm going to give away this Astral, the Coffee Date and Troublemaker Abalone sample, as well as this awesome Jinhao Dadao 9019 with a medium nib, if I'm not mistaken, yes, in the transparent red. I was gifted this pen by my friend Kelly, and she offered to send me one because I wanted to try and write with one once. And she said, oh, I'll send it to you and you can keep it. And I said, okay, I'll accept, but only if I'm going to do a giveaway on this pen. So that is what I'm going to give away for the month of January. And I am going to leave my rolling giveaway link in the description box down below. If you would like to be considered, please fill that out. If you have filled out the form previously, there's no need to fill it out again. In a week from now, I will contact the winner via email and ask if they're still interested, and if they reply to me within 48 hours, then I will send all of those to them. The last thing that I would like to talk about right now is my stats, which look really wonky. I had to adjust things, but I think I've got it down now. I started the month of January with 35 pens. I sold 4, I purchased 3, and now I am at 34 pens. I counted the Pilot Parallels as pens, but I'm going to use them as nibs. So I decided to move them over here into the nibs. I have 20 spare nibs prior to getting these 4 nibs. And so I am at 24 spare nibs. I acquired 3 ink bottles in January. So this brought me up to 56 ink bottles. This was on January 31st, so this ink bottle will count to my towards my February status update. Then I started with 204 ink samples. I got in 14 That means I have 218 samples. I also made sure to, every time I took inks out of my box, I made a note on a post-it that was right on the lid. So I started with 142 ink samples in my ink down box and ended with 150. I had 217 here previously. I'm not really sure why. So I need to recount one more time and maybe even take better note. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. No, I still have two things. I still have the 2 pens from my friend Nadia on loan. And then I have 1 nib on loan from my friend Nikki, which is the SU nib, which is a stub nib for the Pilot Vanishing Point. I hope you enjoyed this ink review, currently inked review for the month of January. If there's information that you would like to see or hear more about, let me know in the comments below. Let me know how your January went. I did not write as much as I had hoped, and I am going to change my rules for the month of February. I'm looking forward to seeing you in those future videos. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.